Ann Makovic, and this is the minute. Police shot and killed a man in South San Francisco. It happened on Oyster Point Boulevard just after 7 last night. Police say he was trying to break into a public restroom, and they say he ran off and pulled out what turned out to be a replica gun. The Supreme Court hearing the Trump administration's bid to end birthright citizenship, but at the heart of the case, the justices are weighing whether lower courts should have the power to block a president's policies nationwide. The Supreme Court ruling is expected by the end of June. And the Nintendo store in San Francisco's Union Square officially opens today. It is at Powell and Geary. Mayor Daniel Lurie is going to be there celebrating with a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Reservations are required for the store through Saturday. I'm Ann Makovic with the minutes.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Concerns growing over a homeless encampment steps away from an East Bay park. Why some neighbors tell us the city needs to step in to help everyone.
This isn't fair for them. This isn't fair for us.
Plus, a new Bay Area study could provide some hope for people living with Parkinson's. We take a look at the groundbreaking research involving magic mushrooms.
This is a first step, and now we've opened the door to being able to really investigate.
And we will introduce you to a Bay Area group that's offering a lifeline for people who might be having a mental health crisis, how it's providing crucial services to people who might not be able to afford it. Thanks for joining us today. Let's get started with our first alert weather. Meteorologist Jessica Birch says the warm-up is going to continue over the next few days. It is gorgeous out there, but there is one day when things are going to cool down.
Well, it's another warm and dry day for us today here in the Bay Area with daytime highs this afternoon, topping off in the 80s widespread throughout our inland areas, at least off into the East Bay, Concord, Livermore, once again Antioch, all sitting in the low 80s this afternoon, while our friends up in wine country are flirting with the upper 70s and lower 80s throughout this afternoon. We're going to continue to warm up, though, as we head into this weekend's forecast. You make your way along the coast. We're in the 60s today, so that 20-degree temperature spread still lasts another day. And down into the Santa Clara Valley we go. Well, we're seeing 70s and 80s returning into the forecast, so a nice, beautiful, and warm day for us today. We'll continue to see warm conditions into this weekend thanks to high pressure moving in from offshore. This system right here does a couple things. It changes the direction of the winds. We're going to see partly cloudy skies into the weekend, but at least it's going to be dry as the storm track is well to the north of us. Earlier this morning, we were dealing with nice light winds. Into this afternoon we go. We'll see gusts anywhere up to around 30, 40 miles per hour at times in areas like Bodega Bay, stretched all the way down into San Francisco. Other than that, our inland areas are dealing with just a nice light breeze pushing in from offshore. Now, the next 8 to 14 days, this is issued by the Climate Prediction Center. It's showing drier than normal conditions for our rainfall outlook, widespread pretty much throughout the whole state of California. And it has to do with that area of high pressure too. So we're going to see dry conditions into the next 7 days. You take a look at our inland spots. I want to start with this one just to show you such a contrast. I mean, we're going to hold on tight to 80s this week. Heading into this weekend, we're going to drop down to the 70s just for one day. And then we warm right back up into the upper 80s right around the corner, close to the 90s by next Tuesday and Wednesday as we head into those afternoon hours. Now, you make your way over into the Bay. It's a very similar trend, 70s and 60s, so just a little bit cooler when it comes to those temperatures, but we'll keep you updated here in the Weather Center.
Another Bay Area encampment growing further out of control as neighbors fear for their safety. And advocates say the city should be doing more to help. That all comes as Governor Newsom urges cities and counties to crack down and ban homeless encampments across the state. It's a common theme in the Bay Area, people pitching tents in areas deemed as public property and then living there until the city or the state forces them out. But before the warnings and the homeless sweeps, there is a debate over how to help homeless people and who's really paying the price. Sushi Nam has a look at the latest efforts in Berkeley.
I never had these signs before, and now I've had to post them, and I've gotten these signs from the city of Berkeley and also from the police department.
Hossein Attar owns this rental property along Martin Luther King Jr. Way in Berkeley, mere steps away from Ohlone Park. He says he is running out of options to keep his tenants, UC Berkeley students, safe from the homeless encampments.
Started out with 3 or 4 tents, then it got 5, 6, 12, 15, 20. Now I think we're up to almost 50 tents.
Attar says he began noticing tents pop up about a year ago, wedged between the dog park.
Homeless people going into my backyard. I've had a knife pulled on me in my own backyard. I've had people shooting up in the backyard.
A sign is posted at the front of Ohlone Park prohibiting unattended property and overnight camping. But that is not the reality.
Sad display of just poverty. This isn't fair for them. This isn't fair for us.
Attar is part of the Save Ohlone Park group, where residents are calling on city officials to provide increased community safety and provide shelter for the unhoused.
The city says they're going to do stuff, but we haven't seen them do one thing. All they've done is built a fence around City Hall and pushed the problem into the park.
The city is facing a barrier to building more shelters, a nearly $27 million budget deficit in the next fiscal year. A city spokesperson responded to our request for comment, saying they're working to find solutions, but wouldn't comment further.
There's no resolution in there. All it does is create a problem that is based on a punitive reaction.
Paul Kealoha Blake of Where Do We Go Berkeley, a nonprofit organization that provides legal aid and resources to the unhoused, says sweeps are ineffective and inhumane. He feels there should be collaboration in making more shelters available.
They do not work. They remove the people from our site. That works, I guess, but it doesn't really work on the real issues. The real issues are a lot deeper and a lot more complex than that.
And for neighbors like Attar,
when I was growing up here as a kid, people would play in the park, people would have picnics, kids would go out and study in the park, and now people are afraid to go in the park.
hoping to erase that fear with a solution that works for all involved.
Well, the most recent count conducted last year found nearly 850 homeless people living in the city of Berkeley. More than half of them were not in shelters. Deadly shooting in broad daylight near a tourist hotspot in San Francisco, all unfolding in front of a surveillance camera. This is near Fisherman's Wharf. Take a look. The victim is in that white car there, and as it pulls away, you can see the gunman running there into frame, carrying what looks like an assault-style rifle. He's still pointing the gun at the car. As that victim drives off, the shooter then casually runs back to his own car. A witness says the gunman fired at least 6 times. All of this happening at the intersection of Columbus Avenue and North Point Street, not far from the cable car turnaround. Police found the victim's car blocks away near Leavenworth and Beach. Officers say he died at the scene. And we talked with Lexi Tate, a witness who has never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I think when you see a large rifle like that, I mean, where my mind goes is like a mass shooting, especially in this day. Luckily, he had taken off really quickly.
While police were responding to the shooting, they learned the suspect turned himself in. He is now under arrest. Still no word, though, on a motive. Again, this is not something we see often in that area, but it has happened. This is video from June of 2023 when a rolling gun battle broke out right near Pier 39. 2 vehicles that were not involved in the battle were caught in the crossfire. The suspects kept chasing each other before hitting a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old near the intersection of Kearney and the Embarcadero. Both children survived. The drivers of the vehicle ended up crashing on Howard Street. Police eventually tracked down and arrested 2 men and a juvenile. Today, the Supreme Court considers the constitutionality of birthright citizenship, something President Trump's executive order seeks to end. The legal fight that granted birthright citizenship in the U.S. happened in San Francisco more than 125 years ago. And today, the Supreme Court is considering whether district judges can block Trump administration policies across the country. That comes after an executive order by President Trump called to end the practice of granting citizenship to all children born in the United States. Lower court judges ruled his order unconstitutional. Trump's lawyers argue those judges should not have so much power. Birthright citizenship has been a right in our nation for generations, all because of the case of a Bay Area man. And our Kevin Coe recently brought us the story of the man's great-grandson, who is unexpectedly carrying on his family's legacy. You can see Kevin's full report on our website, kpix.com. Well, the season is over for the Warriors. The Timberwolves eliminated the Dubs from the playoffs last night. Steph Curry would only watch from the sidelines again because of an injury. Final score from Minnesota, 110 to 121. The Warriors lost all 4 games in the series that Curry missed.
I know we had a shot. I know we could have gone the distance. Maybe we wouldn't have, but it doesn't matter. Again, everything in the playoffs is about who stays healthy and who gets hot.
Healthy, this team is a contender.
For sure. I think we all know that. It's all about playing your basketball, the best basketball at the right time, and being healthy at the right time. Unfortunately, that wasn't us, and we came up short.
As for what's next, the core of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green expected to stick together. But beyond that, anybody's guess. We'll stay tuned. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, California, in a multi-billion-dollar budget hole. Why some say the governor's plan to cut health care for undocumented immigrants could end up hurting all Californians.
Hospitals will have more uninsured patients, and that means a weaker healthcare system for all of us.
Plus, it could be a breakthrough in treating Parkinson's disease. The findings from a Bay Area study involving magic mushrooms. And new efforts to make crab fishing safer for marine life. Now, this innovative technology even surprised the fishermen who were using it.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Another warm day for us today in the Bay Area with 70s widespread throughout the Bay. And then we cool down just a bit as we head into our Saturday forecast before another warm up heading into next week with very similar conditions. It's going to be dry days for us each day as we head into the next 7 days, and that's definitely noticeable in our inland areas. It's going to be a warm one too, with a bigger warm up as we head into next week's forecast. For now, we're flirting back and forth with 80s and 70s diving into this weekend's forecast. By next Tuesday and Wednesday, we're getting closer to the 90s right around the corner.
California facing a huge budget crisis. Governor Newsom says the state is facing a $12 billion shortfall for the upcoming year. To try to help close the gap, he wants to roll back free health care for low-income, undocumented immigrants. Our Lauren Toms talked to a Bay Area group who says the impact could be devastating for families and ultimately cost us all.
Laurel Lucia was shocked to hear that Governor Newsom is walking back one of his signature policies, free health care for low-income, undocumented immigrants. At UC Berkeley, she's studied the impacts of Medi-Cal's expansion and says freezing enrollment could create greater problems in the long run.
And hospitals will have more uninsured patients, as will clinics and other healthcare providers. And healthcare providers will have less revenue, and that means a weaker healthcare system for all of us.
Back in 2022, Newsom touted the ideals of guaranteed health care for all Californians when he announced the expansion of Medi-Cal benefits to undocumented immigrants.
So this is about saving money. This is about strengthening families. And as I said, strengthening communities and the economy here in the state of California. And it's about time.
But now, Newsom acknowledging the state's tough financial reality. In his budget announcement Wednesday, the governor announced the state will block undocumented adults from enrolling in Medi-Cal starting January 1st. And he says the state will add a $100 monthly premium for undocumented patients already receiving coverage. But he emphasized that doesn't mean California has abandoned its undocumented population.
We're not cutting or rolling back those that are enrolled in our Medi-Cal system. We're just capping it, particularly for those without documentation.
The change is expected to save the state more than $5 billion when the proposed cuts begin in 2026. 1.6 million undocumented immigrants are already enrolled in Medi-Cal, and Laura worries the monthly premiums could be a burden many just can't afford.
I'm very concerned. I think a lot of undocumented Californians will not be able to afford $100 a month in premiums. It's important to keep in mind that these are people earning less than $1,800 a month. So $100 a month for health insurance premiums alone is a lot of money.
Republicans had criticized Medi-Cal's expansion from the beginning, and today many pounced on the reversal.
Whether you agree that that's good policy or not good policy, and I don't think it's good policy, but regardless of your opinion on that question, we just simply can't afford it.
Newsom's budget will have to be approved by the state Senate Budget Committee. Chair Scott Wiener says the costs of the program have inflated far beyond expectations.
There is a lot of support for including undocumented people in Medi-Cal, and the legislature has repeatedly voted to support that inclusion. But, you know, when you have a bad budget year that's going to get worse because of Donald Trump, people are going to have a lot of different views about how we should balance the budget.
For Laurel, she's hoping to see the program protected in line with the state's protections for immigrants.
Being the fourth largest economy in the world, I think we can figure out a way to make sure that everyone in our state has health care.
Well, the governor blaming the deficit on President Trump, saying the economy is in trouble because of his tariffs and likely cuts to Medicaid will come at a major cost to California. A sign of hope for communities across the country dealing with the effects of the opioid crisis. Drug overdose deaths are significantly down. New data from the CDC found about 80,000 overdose deaths in 2024. That is 30,000 fewer than 2023, and that equates to a 27% drop. Synthetic opioids, mainly fentanyl, continue to be involved in most deadly overdoses, but those numbers fell at an even steeper rate, 37%. New research shows a link between people living near golf courses facing greater odds of developing Parkinson's disease. New study from the Mayo Clinic found that people living near golf courses are 126% more likely to develop the disease compared to those living more than a mile away. Researchers believe that has to do with pesticide contamination in drinking water and groundwater. About 1 million Americans have Parkinson's disease, and while there's no cure, there are treatments. As Max Darrow shows us, there is new hope that a natural treatment could help them lead more independent and fulfilling lives thanks to magic mushrooms.
On a quiet plot of land in rural New Mexico, Jeff Deming feels like he's really living once again.
Mentally, just night and day.
He's able to do the things that make him happy, like woodworking, despite living with Parkinson's disease.
And I'll be honest with you, I mean, physically, I feel better than I did 2-3 years ago.
And Jeff credits treatment he received during a first-of-its-kind clinical study he participated in at UCSF, psilocybin therapy for people with Parkinson's.
This is very cliche, but it truly gave me my life back.
Psilocybin is a naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in so-called magic mushrooms. When administered in a controlled clinical setting, it's shown promise in treating depression and anxiety, both of which are mood symptoms that go hand in hand with Parkinson's that are linked to a faster physical decline.
We were really surprised by how well this trial went.
Dr. Ellen Bradley and a team of researchers at UCSF are trying to figure out how psilocybin may help treat mood dysfunction and more in those living with this neurodegenerative disease.
This is a first step, and now we've opened the door to being able to really investigate the effects of psilocybin for people with Parkinson's.
12 patients participated in the study, which started and finished here, with transcranial magnetic stimulation, as demonstrated here by her team, to look at the brain before and after 2 psilocybin therapy sessions.
We want to find out not just does psilocybin therapy work, but if it does, and how does it work? And that mechanistic piece is so important. Can it change the brain's ability to adapt to its environment and rewire itself?
Per the study, all 12 Parkinson's patients were able to receive 2 doses of psilocybin 2 weeks apart without any serious side effects. Now, every patient didn't have the same life-changing experience as Jeff says he did, and that was to be expected, says Bradley. But others did also report improvement with their motor and cognitive functions.
So that was really exciting just to see that promising safety profile in this initial pilot that kind of gives us, a green light to go forward with more in-depth research. We really desperately need new treatments for Parkinson's. We really feel like we have to be investigating every possible route that could mean new treatments for patients.
Something about this experience just freed everything back up so that I could think again, I could dream again.
Jeff is now 2 years removed from his controlled psilocybin dosing, and he says he feels better now than he did when he was diagnosed 4 years ago.
There's been such stigma against the research with it.
He'd like to see more research into psychedelic therapies for a variety of conditions.
It is definitely worth looking more closely at.
All with the hope that maybe more people will also be able to reclaim the reins of life.
Dr. Bradley and UCSF are scaling up their work. They are in the process of recruiting Parkinson's patients for a larger study, but she stresses the importance of only doing this in a controlled clinical setting. Still ahead, on this Mental Health Action Day, we are highlighting a Bay Area organization offering services to the LGBTQ+ community. Now it is providing a lifeline to people who might not be able to afford it.
We are in the business of saving young queer and trans lives.
CBS News Bay Area, proud to partner with MTV for Mental Health Action Day today. The initiative is dedicated to connecting people to mental health resources when they need them most. And today we are highlighting an organization working to make counseling more affordable. It is called Queer Life Space. The organization lets people get therapy regardless how much money they make. As Veronica Macias shows us, just one session can make all the difference.
Yes, this is Queer Life Space.
At Queer Life Space,
Sure.
they believe in equity and accessibility.
What we'll do is we'll ask you for some information.
The organization offers affordable mental health and substance abuse services.
We are in the business of saving young queer and trans lives. 76% of our clients are under the age of 40. More than a third of our clients are also BIPOC. We're very proud of this.
BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color.
So all of these rooms are therapy rooms.
The clinicians are uniquely qualified to work here.
Queer Life Space is a place where people can come get counseling services. It's queer affirming care. So it's a place where you know that when you walk in, there's a level of understanding where you're not gonna have to explain yourself of like what queerness is.
To be able to sit across from someone that they don't have to explain what it means to be Black. I just get it.
We're a clinic by queer people for queer people.
In fact, some of the counselors were once patients themselves.
Any given time of day, a lot of the doors will be closed because there are sessions happening.
Ryan McCarrigan calls this office space a pillar for the queer community in present and the future, as they offer a clinical training program for the next generation of queer affirming therapists.
So this is not just an intellectual pursuit. This is really because many of us that pursue this path, we have experienced these issues ourselves.
Services for a historically vulnerable community.
LGBTQIA+ people, in addition to suffering from much higher rates of anxiety and depression than the general population, are also 4 times as likely to engage in suicidal ideation.
Those at Queer Life Space are working to make a difference, offering services that can change lives, offering a better tomorrow.
You can help support queer mental health by attending the Queer Life Space Pride Renaissance Gala. It's coming up Friday, May 30th. The 20% discount code, KPIXTVVIP, is offered for ticket and table sales. If you're in need of help, they offer services on a sliding pay scale. One therapy session can cost about $30. Again, today is Mental Health Action Day. So join CBS News Bay Area and MTV by taking action for your friends with ASK. That is, acknowledge, support, and keep in touch. Your friends need you as much as you need them. So learn how to ask at mentalhealthishealth.us. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, or you just need someone you can talk to, you can call or text the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. That is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Coming up in our next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, Governor Newsom wants to fast-track a tunnel under the Delta to send water down south. Traveling to a small town that could be ground zero for the major construction project. My neighbors say they're worried about what the tunnel will do to their town. Plus, we're hitting the water with local fishermen testing out new crab traps they hope will protect both the whales and their wallets. How a fisherman who had his doubts got to see its success for himself.
After I did it, I said, wait a minute, this might work.
Makovic, and this is the minute. Police shot and killed a man in South San Francisco. Happened on Oyster Point Boulevard just after 7 last night. Police say he was trying to break into a public restroom, and that he ran off and then pulled out what turned to be out to be a replica gun. Prepare to pay more if you shop at Walmart. The retail giant says it plans to raise prices on some items later this month, with more hikes coming next month. The store blames President Trump's tariffs. They did not specify which items will be affected. And it's over for the Warriors. Their season ended at the hands of the Timberwolves in Game 5 of the series last night. Final score in Minnesota, 110-121. The Dubs lost all 4 games in that series that Steph Curry missed because of that hamstring injury. Better luck next year. I'm Ann Makovic with the minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Well, it's another warm and dry day for us today here in the Bay Area with daytime highs this afternoon, topping off in the 80s, widespread throughout our inland areas, at least off into the East Bay, Concord, Livermore, once again Antioch, all sitting in the low 80s this afternoon, while our friends up in wine country are flirting with the upper 70s and lower 80s throughout this afternoon. We're going to continue to warm up, though, as we head into this weekend's forecast. You make your way along the coast. We're in the 60s today, so that 20-degree temperature spread still lasts another day. And down into the Santa Clara Valley we go. Well, we're seeing 70s and 80s returning into the forecast, so a nice, beautiful, and warm day for us today. We'll continue to see warm conditions into this weekend thanks to high pressure moving in from offshore. This system right here does a couple things. It changes the direction of the winds. We're going to see partly cloudy skies into the weekend, but at least it's going to be dry as the storm track is well to the north of us. Earlier this morning, we were dealing with nice light winds. Into this afternoon we go. We'll see gusts anywhere up to around 30, 40 miles per hour at times in areas like Bodega Bay, stretched all the way down into San Francisco. Other than that, our inland areas are dealing with just a nice light breeze pushing in from offshore. Now, the next 8 to 14 days, this is issued by the Climate Prediction Center. It's showing drier than normal conditions for our rainfall outlook, widespread pretty much throughout the whole state of California. And it has to do with that area of high pressure too. So we're going to see dry conditions into the next 7 days. You take a look at our inland spots. I want to start with this one just to show you such a contrast. I mean, we're going to hold on tight to 80s this week. Heading into this weekend, we're going to drop down to the 70s just for one day. And then we warm right back up into the upper 80s right around the corner, close to the 90s by next Tuesday and Wednesday as we head into those afternoon hours. Now, you make your way over into the Bay. It's a very similar trend, 70s and 60s, so just a little bit cooler when it comes to those temperatures, but we'll keep you updated here in the Weather Center.
California back in a big budget hole. Governor Newsom released his revised budget plan that shows the state is facing a $12 billion shortfall. Governor's proposal calls for cuts to some health care programs and state worker pay. But one area he wants to charge full steam ahead is the controversial Delta Tunnel project. The plan is to build an underground waterway to bring water from the Sacramento area down to Southern California. Its 2 intakes will be located near the tiny community of Hood. We sent our John Ramos there, and locals told him they're worried the construction could tear their town apart.
This is the little town of Hood, California. It will be ground zero in the effort to build the Delta Conveyance Tunnel. And with fewer than 300 people, they don't have a lot of political clout. But the feeling about this project is pretty much unanimous here.
Typical small town, everybody knows everybody.
As mayor, Mario Moreno presides over the 271 residents of Hood. The sign is a little out of date. Some people have left. But those who remain have a pretty universal feeling about the plan to place the Delta Conveyance Tunnel project here.
I don't know anybody that's really for the proposed project.
Hood will literally be in the center of the project with huge intakes a mile above and a mile below the town. The plan is to drill a 36-foot wide tunnel 100 feet below ground to send water from the Sacramento River 45 miles to a pumping station to be sent to Central Valley farms and Southern California cities. In his budget briefing today, Governor Newsom talked about how vital he thinks it will be for the state's water infrastructure.
One of the most important projects in the United States of America. They're one of the most important climate adaptation projects in this country. We've got to move that project forward and learn the lessons from the high-speed rail.
It's interesting that he mentioned the lessons of high-speed rail, because in Hood, they're worried about how long a huge project like the tunnel boring operation could affect the town's future.
They said 10 years, 8 years, 10 years, but we know by state government and stuff that they've either built that are major infrastructure projects, whether it's the proposed high-speed rail or the East Bay span rebuilding takes way longer than they anticipated.
But beyond the construction headaches, residents here fear a loss of their way of life.
Having these giant tunnels right in our backyard, and it's going to take the landscape away. I mean, who wants that? This is not a city. This is the country, and this country should remain how it is, you know?
It just takes something away from you that's real, real big. Like, that's pretty mighty, you know, it is. It's pretty majestic for all of us. You know, when it rains, it talks. When it thunders, it talks. And when the water gets high, and, you know, we kind of enjoy it a little bit of the, you know, how it all works out here. And so they're going to come along and put some screws to it, you know.
Newsom summed up his feeling in his announcement, quote, "We're done with barriers, let's get this built." And to do that, he says he intends to simplify permitting, limiting protests and legal challenges, and increase the state's authority to acquire land for the project. That bothers Aaron Pruitt and his son Mason, who operate a thrift store and antique warehouse in the town.
And now they're just going to put their big thumb on it and say, oh, this is the deal, and you have to accept it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
All of this will be destroyed by the hands of those who want to destroy the laws that bind and protect us in our Delta. It's truly sad because it's a lot of people from my generation that are going to feel the effects.
The truth is, no one really knows what to expect when construction begins. They only know that whatever is done here will not be with them in mind.
Do we get a benefit out of it? Oh, no. Somebody is, but it's all going down south.
And they know that having the governor describe them as barriers lets them know where they stand when the state starts taking water from their river.
So the price tag for the Delta Conveyance Project is now estimated to be $20 billion. That is up from the $16 billion projected in 2020. The tunnel project is facing fierce opposition from Newsom's own party. Assemblymember Rhodesia Ransom, whose district includes much of the Delta, said she is launching an audit of the state's Department of Water Resources. Ransom says the project violates both water and property rights. In a statement, she says the $20 billion water grab shifts wealth from the San Joaquin Delta to Southern California. She says, it goes on to say that it would steal our water and harm the Central Valley's Delta. As much as some people love to eat crab, lobster, and other seafood caught in cages on the ocean floor, here in the Bay Area, we know these delicacies come with a price. Whales, turtles, and other sea creatures end up getting caught in the long lines that are attached to the cages. The hardest hit, humpback whales. Entanglements in fishing lines help put them on the endangered species list. That also delayed crab season here in the Bay Area for the last few years. But as Elizabeth Cook reports, there may be a promising solution to minimize the impact on ocean life. But not all fishermen are willing to pay the price.
San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf, known to many as a tourist attraction, harbors a small fleet of fishing boats that might otherwise be catching crabs this time of year. But not now. Migrating endangered humpback whales are swimming in the same waters outside the Golden Gate where crabs are. And long lines of rope fishermen traditionally used to pull up crab cages have entangled too many humpbacks. 922 have been maimed or killed since 2007, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. But Brand Little is able to keep bringing up his catch from the ocean floor because he's using a high-tech system. A remote-controlled pop-up balloon-like device signals the crab cage on the ocean floor to head to the surface.
It has an acoustic release on it. We have a transducer that sends a signal to this release unit.
But for fishermen, spending another $50 a cage in an already cash-strapped industry is a hard sell.
What you have to remember about fishermen is these guys have just lost after lost after lost after lost. So, there's very little opportunity left.
And this new pop-up gear has its critics.
I was one of the biggest critics of it, so I set out to prove that it wouldn't work. And I kind of had to eat a little bit of crow because after I did it, I said, wait a minute, this might work.
For 3 years now, Brand Little heads out at midnight under the Golden Gate Bridge to retrieve his catch. He says he's not injured a single humpback whale. The pop-up technology he's using is sponsored by California's Department of Fish and Wildlife that regulates the crab fishing season.
This year we shortened it given the heightened risk of migrating whales coming back up the coast.
Chuck Bonham is California's Department of Fish and Wildlife Director.
You're the guy that gets to decide when the season begins and when it ends. What goes into making that decision?
The thing the whales eat for food, small little fish called krill, those krill moved more inshore and the whales followed them, right where our fishing men and women put their gear. That has meant every year we've been entangling whales.
Bonham cut this year's season by 2 months, but the advantage Brand Little now has may mean the $25,000 technological investment he made will pay off, not just in a bigger catch, but in preventing injuries to humpback whales.
Coming up next, the PGA Championship kicks off today, and we will introduce you to the local instructor representing the Bay Area at golf's second major.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
It's another warm day for us today in the Bay Area with 70s widespread throughout the Bay. And then we cool down just a bit as we head into our Saturday forecast before another warm up heading into next week with very similar conditions. It's going to be dry days for us each day as we head into the next 7 days, and that's definitely noticeable in our inland areas. It's going to be a warm one too, with a bigger warm up as we head into next week's forecast. For now, we're flirting back and forth with 80s and 70s diving into this weekend's forecast. By next Tuesday and Wednesday, we're getting closer to the 90s right around the corner.
Well, if you plan on tuning into the PGA Championship this week on CBS and need someone to root for, Matt Lively shows us you can keep your eye out for a pro from the North Bay.
Tom Johnson's smooth swing is a reason for celebration.
You're my hero.
The 43-year-old instructor calls the Meadow Club in Fairfax home, and its members hold him in high regard.
I would say he is the pride of the Meadow Club.
The former Tour Pro has teed it up in 33 PGA events, but his round at Quail Hollow in the middle of May will be unlike any of them.
I'll be able to always say that I played in a major championship, and I just think that's so awesome.
Johnson qualified for the 2025 PGA Championship by finishing in the top 20 of a qualifying tournament.
Tears were, welling up, honestly, and it's taken me several days to have it start to sink in that I'm actually going to play in a major championship.
He had to beat out over 300 golfers, and it didn't come easily.
I had to super glue a blister, and like my dogs were barking, like it was a lot of walking.
Johnson had full tour status in 2007 and has played sparingly in events since then, making cuts in back-to-back years at Silverado. But nothing comes close to this achievement.
It's a culmination of my career. It's a dream come true.
After all he's been through, to go, and I watched him every day on TV as much as they showed of him, he did wonderfully, and we're real proud of him.
The old pro has felt that love and hopes to represent them well and maybe add hardware to his collection.
I just can't wait to go put my best foot forward and make everybody here at Meadow Club proud, and my family too. So I'm going to go give it my all.
Round one of the 2025 PGA Championship is happening now. Now to the Bay Area's newest pro sports team, the Golden State Valkyries, preparing for their regular season opener at Chase Center tomorrow. It's going to be their first one ever in this inaugural season. The city of Oakland showed their support to the team by raising their flag at City Hall yesterday. Fans that came out got to shoot some hoops and take home a custom Valkyries rally towel. And we spoke with one of those fans, Nam Nguyen. He says he is pumped that the Bay Area finally has a WNBA team.
See women's sports come to the Bay in this form is absolutely groundbreaking. I think it's a first step toward big things. I'm going to be there on Friday.
CBS News Bay Area is your home for the Valkyries. More than 30 games will air on KPIX and Pix Plus. We're also going to have a weekly show with behind-the-scenes access. And you can enter for a chance to win 2 tickets to the Valkyries Mystics game next Wednesday night at Chase Center. See it in person. Just go to our website, kpix.com/contests, and then enter this code word, Ballhalla. Let me spell that out for you. That is BALLHALLA. You can enter each day until Monday at 11 p.m. Coming up, it was an emotional day at the only remaining Chinese cemetery in the Santa Clara Valley.
Knowing what my ancestors went through, what the generation before me went through, it all just informs how I make my decisions today and how I understand my culture and my history.
The special ceremony honoring the ancestors who helped make the Bay Area what it is today. As we celebrate AAPI Heritage Month, we are shining a light on a traditional ceremony in San Jose to honor the first Chinese pioneers in America. Dozens of people paid their respect at Qingming Festival at the South Bay Historic Chinese American Cemetery. It is the only remaining Chinese cemetery in the Santa Clara Valley. Our Mary Lee shows us how community members came together to honor their ancestors.
富威隨父消亡，香乃仍煙，密布諸天，觀同鏡麗，廚分當為大神。
Okay, thank you.
Barbara Tom is 86 years young and a proud Chinese American.
I reserved it today to be here, and I wanted to be here, as I am, you know.
Barbara has always observed Qingming Festival ever since she was a little girl. Qingming is a Chinese spring ritual where families pay tribute to their ancestors and visit their graves.
We folded over 1,000 papers and put them, then sewed them in like a little leg so that it won't fly all over, as they did one year.
Barbara and several volunteers folded these silver and gold paper money offerings for Qingming. It was Barbara's idea to turn them into these beautiful leis.
This
is the kind of like altar, you know, to honor all the people that buried behind this altar. Behind this altar is around 300 gravesite over there.
The first Chinese pioneers in the South Bay were buried here in the South Bay Historic Chinese American Cemetery. That's because in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Chinese were not allowed to be buried anywhere else.
All the 300 people, all the names in here.
And this is the original book?
Yeah, the original book. When they bury, they record it over there.
Every person buried in this cemetery is recorded in these books, from the day they were born, the Chinese village and province they were from, and the day they passed away. During this special Qingming ceremony, people read the names of these brave Chinese pioneers who lived and died here in the South Bay. For Selena Wang, who was born in San Jose, Qingming is a meaningful experience to connect to her culture and community.
I think it feels amazing. I think knowing what my ancestors went through, what the generation before me went through, it all just informs how I make my decisions today and how I understand my culture and my history.
From grave robberies and vandalism to the rebuilding of the cemetery, which accidentally destroyed many of the original tombstones, the South Bay Chinese community has worked incredibly hard to bring this cemetery back to life.
All the tombstones were mistakenly thrown away, so we only save a few of the tombstone fragments of the tombstones right by the altar there.
You know, sometimes when something bad happens, you shudder. But in this case, having, you know, almost destroying our altar here, the community, people around here got together and decided that we have to honor it, and they did.
At this year's Qingming ceremony, they unveiled a new monument memorializing our first Chinese pioneers. All 300 names are carved into this monument. Generations of Chinese Americans stand here today to remember and honor them, grateful for their contributions and sacrifices, knowing they are here because of them.
In 1902, the South Bay Chinese community banded together to raise money to buy that plot of land to bury their dead. The historic Chinese American Cemetery of San Jose is maintained by the South Bay Chinese American community. You can find all of our stories for AAPI Heritage Month on our website, kpix.com. Our special Legacy and Leadership is coming up next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and then May 24th at 7 p.m. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your first alert forecast and another look at your top stories.